So thank you very much, Konstantin, for invitation to take part in this very important and very interesting conference. And I would like also to remind you the title of the conference, Science, Information and Spirit. So it is devoted not only to very most interesting for those who present here questions about GDV, about BioWell, and very, very fast and impressive development of this field of science. But it is also devoted to big questions, to big philosophical questions. And if I'm not mistaken, each time we have at these conferences a couple at least of a couple of list of questions which are very general questions. And to my mind, nowadays, today, for all of us who are present here, one of the most general questions is the general situation, which is called the global ubiquitous crisis on Earth, which concerns everybody of us. And science and information and spirit, I hope very much, would allow us to overcome this crisis and understand what are the reasons of it. And I would just like to first start to describe major features of this current global crisis, which probably all of you know. Some of them are real features. Some of them are, I would say, not probably real features, but nevertheless. The rapid growth of population generally described as population explosion, one of the major features which is discussed for several decades already. The diminishing land resources, the diminishing water resources, the destruction of the atmosphere, which we, all of us, feel as the global heating, the approaching energy crisis, which to my mind is somewhat questionable, and we'll see it later on from my lecture. Social decline, which many people really feel, and geopolitical conflicts and the increasing killing power, which relates to practically all of us who even do not participate in these conflicts personally. So all these features are now stressed, and this is not the end of the list. One may add to it, to the features of the global crisis, many other points. And all these points became sharpened during the recent years. Well, at least more and more people feel that something is wrong in this on our globe. And what is interesting, and what not so many people know, that the prediction that the global crisis will break out at the beginning of the 21st century was made more than 60 years ago. And it was made by Heinz von Förster, one of the founders of cybernetics, in a paper published in one of the most serious scientific journals in the world, in Science, in November 1960. And the title of his paper of his and his colleagues was somewhat strange for the title of scientific paper: Doomsday, Friday, 13th of November, AD 2026. The caption to this title was, "At this date, human population will approach infinity if it grows as it has grown in the last 2 millennia." So this paper published in journal Science shaked the scientific community because Hans von Förster insisted in this paper that the real crisis could be predicted from just the phenomenological data supported by many different observations. He correlated the number of human beings living on Earth, that is humanity, with the time, starting, say, from point zero, from Jesus Christ. And when he made this correlation of increase of population with time up to our days, it turned out that this population was growing according to hyperbolic law. And what is very special about this hyperbolic law, we'll go later on into some other details, is that if some system changes its the major parameter according to hyperbolic law, then this parameter will become infinity, will become infinite at some time point. So this curve cannot go further a certain time point. And when he made a correlation of different observation of the how many human beings lived on Earth during at least these 2000 years, with very high precision, it fit to this hyperbolic law. Here is this very simple equation which describes the number of people on Earth, which depends on some constant, which is the empirical constant calculated from this curve. It is 186 men per year, divided by the figure 2025 minus t, where t is the actual time. So according to this t is current time, so for 500 years AD, it is 225 minus 500, and so when we go to our time, then when we're reaching 2025, then n should become infinite. So Foster wrote in this paper and later on in discussion that the system as a whole becomes highly unstable in the vicinity of a critical value, T0, of the corresponding parameter. And these singularities serve as welcome warning signals that some breakdown of the signal structure is to be expected. So one may calculate this exact time point on this curve, and this exact time point of this curve was calculated by Foster as 13th of November AD 2026. Of course, it was just kind of approximation because this particular date coincided with the birthday of Heinz von Foster himself. There is plus minus around this date, but this is not a very big plus minus. So we are now living very close to 2025, and the system now becomes really very unstable. And according to Foster's joke, he said that our grandchildren will not starve to death, they will be squeezed to death. Of course, it is a joke because though the humanity was developing according to mathematical function, but this mathematical function in physical terms cannot finish with infinity. Now let us just turn to other laws of growth which are known to biologists and to some other people who are just calculating this process. Most simple is, so here here is the comparison on this plot of different growth curves. Most simple is linear growth, where m, or maybe in biology it's biological mass or number of individuals, growth proportionally to time, exactly proportional to time with some constant. In this semi-logarithmic curve, you see this blue curve, which is increasing and increasing and increasing. There is another law of growth, which is very well known, I suppose, to everybody. And we'll talk about this law of growth later on. That's exponential growth, where mass is increasing, or the biological mass, number of individuals is increasing as the as an exponent of some particular parameter with time. There is also a so-called power law, where the number of individuals is growing with time in some having in some power. And finally, this is hyperbolic law of growth, which is very different from all of them, because it has the asymptotically approaches a very specific particular time point after which this law is invalid. So it has an extreme point. Now, in biology, of course, all biological mass and number of individuals are always grow or are at a stationary state or decline. And there was always a question for more than 20 years ago: what is the law of growth of biological systems? And currently, practically all biologists believe that the growth of biological systems occurs according to the exponential law. It was suggested by British economist Thomas Malthus, who in 1798 formulated the principle of increasing of number of people in the given conditions of their existence. He described growth of mankind by an exponential progression. Of course, when one woman gives birth, when there is multiplication, one bacteria gives two bacteria, one family should give more than one children in order for the population not to decline. But at the same time, any growth depends on the, according to Malthus and all other people who believe him, it depends on the availability of resources for this growth. And at the same time, according to Malthus, he considered that production of food increases as an arithmetic progression, that's the linear growth. And basing on this principle, Malthus concluded that the inevitable struggle for resources would result in continuous extermination of a large part of humanity. But in fact, in the course of human history, each population grew, according now to von Förster, more slowly at first, and then faster than it follows from the Malthus concept. So again, here is the curve for humanity growth, starting already from 10,000 years BC, before Christ. And here is the experimental time points or estimates of the quantity of humans who lived on Earth. And here is the growth of human on Earth. And here is the exponential, the best fit for these experimental points of an exponential growth. And you can see that real growth was at first much slower than an exponent, and then with some, of course, variations, it increased much faster than an exponent predicted. So in course of human history, population grew more slowly at the beginning and then faster than it follows from Malthus concept. And as a matter of fact, the Malthus concept, which is now in the foundation of the one of the major biology theory of evolution, or Darwinian theory of evolution, it turns out that experimental data doesn't fit into this Malthus expectation. And Malthus theory is foundational Darwin's theory of evolution. Here is the citation from The Origin of Species by Charles Darwin. Since more individuals are produced than how many can survive, there must be a struggle for existence between individuals of the same species, or between individuals of different species, or with physical living conditions. This is a teaching of Malthus, applied by Darwin already, to entire animal and vegetable kingdom in an enhanced form. So the foundation of the struggle for life and survivors of the fittest in this struggle is Malthus' concept of exponential growth of living things, with the only linear growth of the resources available for them. And von Foster already, he understood that exponent cannot explain the growth of humanity. The hyperbolic law of growth shows another completely different behavior of these systems. That's from his paper. Elements of humanity, individuals, possess a system of communication which enables them to form coalitions until all elements are so strongly linked that the population as a whole can be considered as a single person playing a two-person game with nature as an opponent. From Foster already stated that humanity is a strongly linked system of individuals. And since this hyperbolic law lasts for many thousands of years, and some now scientists insist that it is already from the very beginning of the humanity, that's about 2 million of years, it grows according to hyperbolic law. That means that the humanity should be considered as a single person. This single living person is, we can use the word coherent. Is this the indication of coherence in the behavior of humanity as a whole? Well, a paper published in 1960 was first strongly criticized, not on the fact of its mistakes which were given to it, but it could not be explained the linkness of human beings throughout the whole history of humanity. So the science couldn't explain what links these human beings. And also the paradigm of exponential growth was so strongly fixed into brains of biologists, physicists, and chemists that von Foster's discovery was forgotten for several decades. And only in the 1980s, probably, they begin increase interest to this problem. And one of the scientists who developed this problem very profoundly was a Russian physicist Sergei Kapitsa. As a matter of fact, he was son of Pyotr Kapitsa, who was the Nobel Prize winner and one of the really great physicists of the last century. So Sergei Kapitsa, being also a physicist, he paid attention to these mathematical peculiarities of this process which concerns all of us. And he wrote several books and papers about this problem, and also made a discovery which was later supported by the evidence. He predicted this discovery. He said that the model of hyperbolic growth indicates the paradoxical global independence of the humanity as the system from the external resources throughout the history of development. This was completely opposite to Malthusian population principle, claiming that its resources determine the rate of growth of population and its limit. According to Sergei Kapitsa, the reasoning about the hyperbolic law of growth throughout the history, that growth rate depends on the intrinsic properties of the system and not on the external environmental conditions and the resources, which contradicts completely all our thinking that we depend so much on resources that we should struggle for all these resources. According to Kapitsa, the system was in a very sense the humanity is an autonomous system which develops according to internal laws. And so, of course, there was the question which was asked by to those few scientists who studied this problem: what is the reason of such a peculiar character of human population growth? Here, I would say that starting from Foster, then this idea was continued by other physicists, scientists who were who studied this problem. As a matter of fact, neither demographers nor general biologists pay attention to this problem, and most of them do not pay attention to this problem until now. These Russian astronomers Shklovsky and Kapitsa and also von Foster, they insisted that the current hyperbolic law of humanity growth is provided essentially by social factors rather than biological ones. And also Kapitsa wrote directly that one should not apply examples from the animal world and biosynthesis on the humanity. The development of the latter is governed by the entirely different physical, biological, and social regularities. Probably because those physicists who studied this problem, they insisted that it has nothing to do with the biological laws. Biologists, in most cases, were not interested in this hyperbolic growth. Still, I ask the question, can one nevertheless find examples of hyperbolic law of growth in biology? Having a big limit of time and a lot of things to tell you, I will just mention few examples from different biological areas. That hyperbolic growth is the growth which is characteristic for very many different biological systems. For example, it is a common knowledge, and it follows from the common knowledge that bacteria should multiply according to exponential law. Two bacterial cells, a bacterial cell divides into two, its progeny divides into two, and so on and so forth. So there should be an exponential law a priori expected. But when some microbiologists begin to study very precisely the rate of growth of some bacteria, at least some of bacteria, so they found that the hyperbolic part of growth was much better fit than exponential one. For example, here is the reference to one of such papers. Though it is not generally accepted, but still this is the experimental data. Another example from completely different biological field, change in the number of ovum cells in human ovary during lifespan. During embryological development, the number of ovum cells which appear in the body of the female embryo increases for a certain period of time so this is 9 months, the pregnant state increases dramatically according exactly to hyperbolic law of growth of these own cells. And then that is another question. We do not have time to discuss it anymore. And then during the second part of pregnancy, there is hyperbolic decrease of these ovum cells due to apoptosis. Why it happens and so on, that's a very interesting question, and that's another question. But still, I'd like to pay your attention that the quantity of ovum cells, when it increases according to hyperbolic and not exponential law of growth. So there are other examples which were shown to be, for example, growth of population of leukocytes in blood of cancer patients after engraftment of autologous transplants goes according to hyperbolic law. That means that before chemotherapy, sometimes in some cases there is such a medical procedure, all the immune cells are extracted from human blood, and then good white blood cells, the healthy white blood cells, are injected to a human being, and they begin, these white blood cells, which are supposed to fight the cancer cells, they begin to multiply and they begin to grow, and this growth in all cases which were studied goes according to exponential law. Then, of course, it doesn't, the growth doesn't go to the infinite quantity of these white blood cells. It stops and levels at some point. And finally, the two Russian scientists, one of them is a mathematician, another is the Sergei Markov. He is the paleontologist. They studied the increasing biodiversity of sea animals in the course of their evolution during Phanerozoic. And they found that this is the quantity of different genera which were found by paleontologists. These are millions of years before zero time point, that the growth of these genera, which are not a single organism, also goes according to the hyperbolic law. Thus, the hyperbolic law of growth of the population or biomass is manifested at all the levels of organization of living matter. The law of hyperbolic growth reflects the presence of intra-system feedback by which a living system is developed as an integral object. Still, is there the fundamental, so I now state that bacteria and human beings may grow, human beings grow exactly according to a hyperbolic law of growth, and bacteria we can follow what's going on with them at a stage of increase of their population, also increase as a hyperbolic law. And still, is there any difference is it a fundamental difference between human beings and the rest living systems? Sergei Kapitsa paid attention to one of such fundamental differences. Well, there is such a curve, dependence of population of particular species of animals on the average body mass of individual. This dependence, one can see here, is the mass of the representatives of different species, and here is their population. So the smaller is the, here are only animals are presented at this plot. The smaller is the animal, for example, mice. The larger is the quantity, there are around 1 billion, billion individuals of mice and rats on Earth. If we go to the animals with which have weight about 10 kilograms, like foxes or other wolves and things like this, so here is a logarithmic curve. Here is 3 powers less of them. Now, if we go to animals which are very close in their mass to human beings, like, well, the best fit is monkeys. And the quantity of monkeys on Earth, the quantity of individual monkeys on Earth is about 100,000. But the quantity of human beings of Earth, which have the same mass as very, of course, approximately as monkeys and other animals which have the same weight as human beings, is 6 1,000 times, 100,000 times more than monkeys. So that means that human beings are different in their population from practically all representatives of animals to whom they biologically belong. So if humans were animals, their population would be 10,000, and as a matter of fact, 100,000. And as a matter of fact, it is suggested by paleontologists, by even demographers, that when there was anthropogenesis, appearance of human population of Earth, at that time the population was about 100,000 individuals. Now it increased by 8 billion. So a couple of years ago. Now, so here is one difference, and very significant difference between human beings and any other animals. But if we can look at the major reason for growth, major reason for biological activity, and so on, this is the bioenergetic reasons. And in 1935, the again, a great biologist, Soviet biologist, who was unfortunately exterminated by the Soviet power, Erwin Bauer, he suggested that there is the major bioenergetic difference between species belonging to the different to different types. He calculated, even at that time, the so-called the parameter, which is he called a Rubner constant. And the Rubner constant is the parameter which may be calculated as the mean lifespan of a representative of a particular species in years on the intensity of oxygen consumptions. That is mass, that is milliwatts divided by mean mass of the organism. So this Rubner constant, it shows how much energy consumed by the representative of a particular species during his lifetime. And of course, for those species which belonged to the beginning of evolution, Calentorata, Echinodermata, Rubner constant was rather small, but it increased with increase of organization. And vertebrata, in particular primates, they have these Rubner constants in this such a parameter about 2,000. As regards Homo sapiens, it again didn't fit into this regularity. The bioenergetic potential of Homo sapiens is several times higher than that of all other species, including primates. So this means that even at the physiological level, human beings, they are different from their most close relatives, for example, primates from monkeys. Their bioenergetic potential is at least 2 or 3 or 4 times higher than for different primates. And according to Bauer, and then later supported by other scientists, the bioenergetic evolution was growing according, as a matter of fact, to hyperbolic law. So when some biologists considered that the evolution is stochastic and it, according to the survival of the fittest, only increases its organization, it's now turns out it's a wrong point of view. In fact, evolution is a progress, and it is a bioenergetic progress. Here on this plot, one can see the energy metabolism increase with time, and it increases to some time point characteristic for vertebrates, for mammalia, and human beings. They lie on this hyperbolic curve much higher than all other animals. So why human beings they lie much higher? Because first, their physiological energy potential is higher, and from this physiological increase of physiological energy potential of human beings, they also gain another features which do not have any other animals. So the essence from this previous plot, one can see that the essence of the evolutionary progress is bioenergetic progress and the perfection of the management of vital processes. So what happens with human beings in comparison to all previous the species in evolutions? There is also encephalization, so-called in course of evolution. So according to other scientists who studied the quantity of number of nerve cells in brains of different animals, it turned out that human beings have much higher contents of nerve cells in their brain in comparison even to high species. So there is physiological distinction of humans from animals. Human Rubner constant is 5-10-fold of that higher animals due to higher level of human brain bioenergetics, and the ratio of oxygen consumption by human brain to oxygen consumption by human body is 2-3-fold higher than in primates. And the result, what human beings gain, and they gain at the moment of anthropogenesis. Human beings have at their disposal more free energy than they need for their survival as biological species. This energy excess may be used for activity aimed to invent life-preserving technologies. So there is such appeared in recent years such a term, life-preserving technologies, technologies which allow to prolong the lifespan of human beings in comparison to their lifespan needed for just survival of the species. The major life-preserving technology is taking possession of fire, the most effective means to transform potential energy of natural resources into free energy needed for not just survival, but for future development. And this thus emergence of human beings in the course of evolution represents a phase transition from biological evolution characterized by bioenergetic process developing according to the hyperbolic law to anthropotechnological progress that may be evaluated by the increase of quantity and quality of energy converted by human beings into free energy. So in a sense, physicists who insisted that there is the hyperbolic growth of human beings is due to their ability to devise and use life-preserving technologies, they are right. But they are wrong, considering that this is the hyperbolic growth is only feature of human beings. It's the feature of all biological living things, but human beings at some stage of the development of biota, of biosphere, they gained additional ability to increase the level of free energy. And so how again the ideas and the theory of Malthus doesn't it contradicts to the real quantity of resources for further development of human beings. Recently, though we one of the features of this global crisis is the lacking of energy. So we should have a lack of energy for our, according to these claims, energy becomes less and less available for human beings, and that's why we are struggling for life with each other. In fact, again, the empirical data shows that from 1850 to 1990, world energy production increased 70-fold, and world population increased only 4.3-fold. And John Holdren, he is the American, one of the leaders in energy science of United States. He came to conclusion that quantity of energy available to a human being, to a person, increases as a square of humanity, square of population, of quantity of human beings on Earth. So during the period when we can make all these measurements and make all these calculations, the quantity of energy per human being in the world increased 4 times. But not only quantity of energy increased in calories, in watts, terawatts, and so on. The technological process is increased not only in the quantity, but also in the quality of free energy used for work performance, for practically the life conserving technologies. Hundreds of years ago, only mechanical energy of water and wind, and of course burning, was available for human beings. Already in new times, only in new times, energy from coal, oil, from gas burning became available for human beings. That is the much more concentrated energy. Electrical energy appeared only in the 20th century, and by the end of 20th century, there appeared the most concentrated energy, that is nuclear energy. And today, in our days, we gain more and more energy, though all the previous sources of energy didn't disappear and can be used for different purposes. So increasing quality of free energy used for survival. In fact, allows to decrease the quantity of energy. The higher is the quality of energy, the less energy we need. So the problem of the global crisis, the feature of the global crisis related to so-called deficiency of energy, deficiency of land, deficiency of water, is somewhat speculative. In fact, there is the quantity of energy available to human being increases with the quantity of human beings, non-proportionally. So the law of hyperbolic growth for the physical material system cannot result in a singularity state, in infinity, for example, in infinite number of humans. So this law should be replaced by another one. And since the end of the 20th century, population rate growth of humanity began to decline. This is the manifestation of the so-called world demographic transition, which scientifically was predicted and first observed by Sergei Kapitsa. So Sergei Kapitsa paid attention of scientists, and now, but unfortunately his name was forgotten as the discoverer of this problem, that the world demographic transition happened around year 2000. By the, here is the scale starting from 1950 and ending by our days. So the each decade, the quantity of people increased more and more. For example, if in decade of 1950s, 1960s, increase was about 500 million of people, then 600 million of people, then 800 million of people. And during this time period, the most of demographers were in shock, and they believed that the quantity of humanity really may reach infinity. But already in 1990 to 2000, this growth per decade of people leveled and begin to decline, and it continues to decline. And the growth rate as percent per year also declines on Earth. One can say, look at Africa, but I can say, look at China, which expects that its population will decrease twofold by, for example, year 2050. So the quantity of people, quantity of children who are given birth by one family decreases by all over the world. So again, there are a lot of different explanations for this demographic transition, decrease in the growth of humanity, and it's leveling. This world demographic transition, in fact, from the point of view of a biology, is the manifestation of the group effect, characteristic for the normal development of all biological populations. This group effect known to most ecologists, but it's not known to biologists of other specialties. It is a universal biological phenomenon. It was discovered by French biologist of the school of Pierre Grasset, by Rémi Chavin, for example. It was discovered, as a matter of fact, by Alexander Gurvich, Russian embryologist, who stated that the rate of reproduction and success of many living organisms in groups is much more effective than in isolation. But at a certain population density, rate of reproduction falls down due to changes in physiological regulatory process of individuals, not due to the lack of resources. Longevity of individuals in groups increases in comparison to isolations. There are only two examples which were studied by Chavin, Grasset, and so on. Here is the percent of survival of bees. If you have one bee, bees isolated by singles from each other. So they practically die out by the fifth day. But if you have a group of 10 bees, and here is the logarithmic scale, they live much longer. Same with for ants. And Chavez has shown that same is, for example, not only for insects, but for mammals. Like he wrote even a paper which was named Mice Against Darwin, where he has shown that mice begin to stop multiplying long before the resources are exhausted in their environment. So that means that humanity lifetime prolongations, which we observe now, probably depends on this group effect. The quantity of humanity reached some point where there is a physiological physiological limit for their excessive for their hyperbolic growth. Okay, so this law of hyperbolic growth should be replaced by another one, which we observe now as the demographic transition. And what other law of growth is known in biology besides this hyperbolic law? We already named, so these four laws of growth were mentioned before. That is linear growth, exponential growth, which are invalid for living systems. Hyperbolic law of growth is a lot of, we discuss it practically for the whole this talk. But there is also a power law of growth. This which was discovered in 1930s by Huxley and Schmalhausen, two representatives of general biology, of in fact evolutionary biology. They have shown that, for example, here we again compare different laws of growth. Here is hyperbolic growth, and here is the power law of growth. That is quantity or mass, biological mass increases with time as a certain power of this time. There is a constant which is different for different species. So living organisms as a unitary system grow according to the power themselves, their mass increases according to the power or allometric law. What it means? It means that all parts of an organism grow proportionally to the logarithms of their dimensions of each other and to the logarithm of mass of the whole system. Allometric law of growth is the law of harmonic growth. I give you a very example which everybody knows. When there is embryonic development, all future organisms they grow because their cells multiply, but liver doesn't want to become larger than it should be. Kidney should not become larger than it should be. The muscle tissue should not become larger than it should be. The allometric law of growth is the law of this harmonic growth. And on the plot, full logarithmic plot, where on the abscissa you write body weight, in some measured in, for example, milligrams for this fiddler crab, or and here claw weight, which for this particular species of crab is much exceeds, and that's why it draws attention of the zoologists. The dimensions of another another hand, so it grows exactly according to this power allometric law during the whole lifetime of this fiddler crab. And when we look at the human and embryo growth, which can be described by this power law discovered by Schmalhausen and Huxley, so we can see that starting from the, for example, 30 days after fertilization, the growth of a human embryo as a whole and its parts in relation to the whole human embryo goes according to hyperbolic law. But if we look at preceding stages of the cleavage of the fertilized egg, this is not a power law. This is a law which here is the egg which is fertilized. Here is the mass of this egg on the in micrograms on the 7th day, and here is on the 11th day in micrograms. And then it very fast increases to from 380 micrograms to 2 million micrograms for very short period of time. Isn't it a hyperbolic law of growth which converts into the power law? So I'm coming to the end of my talk, ending with questions, not statements, because practically nobody started the whole the growth of the system from its emergence to its maturity. The question is, which I pose now, is like this. Was humanity population growth, according to the hyperbolic law, just the first phase of human history, like the stage of cleavage of the fertilized egg? And here, when it came to the a certain mass, a certain quantity of cells, there is a phase transition from the hyperbolic law of growth to the power law. And may we expect a transition into a new phase where humanity growth will proceed according to the power allometric law. So here is the first stage of development of humanity, which will convert into the second stage of humanity, which we may expect. So what we should expect: harmony, transition to the power law of growth, or chaos, degradation of human population with unpredictable consequences, because this phase transition is a transition of instability. So what will be the outcome of this grandiose process, which lasts already for at least 2 million of years? It depends only on humans which live now on Earth. And it depends on human behavior for very short period of time, because this phase transition takes the lifetime of one, at most two populations, two generations of human beings, to human beings race to whom we predict. And I told you very many things, and I understand that it is not so easy to grasp them in a moment. It took for me several years to come to these conclusions. I'd like to summarize at least some points which I suggested to you. So the increase in the number of mankind over the period of its existence until, of its existence until the end of the 20th century occurred according to hyperbolic law. Hyperbolic law of growth is characteristic for systems elements of which constantly informationally interact with each other in a coherent manner. So the humanity from the very beginning was a linked, a system of linked individuals, more strongly, less strongly, but all of them were linked. Hyperbolic growth describes many biological processes, including the pattern of progressive evolution of life on Earth. The essence of the evolutionary process is bioenergetic progress, from the very beginning of the emergence of living systems on Earth. That is, increase in the available free energy and the perfection of the management of vital processes. Hyperbolic growth is in confined systems, and humanity is a confined system until now. Though some people like Elon Musk, they suggest for the best part of humanity to move to some other planet. But well, this is a good idea. I hope it will not be realized. So. The humanity lives on on Earth, which is a confined system, and so it never reaches singularity point and is transformed into growth governed by the power allometric law of growth, characteristic for the systems in which behavior of all their parts is correlated to the behavior of each of other and of the whole system. But so here is the optimistic, I would say, optimistic prediction for the humanity. But the period of transition of growth of the system from hyperbolic to the power law is a kind of phase transition, the period of instability and chaotization. So this is the period of crisis. So, as a matter of fact, the word crisis, or sometimes even use the word apocalypse, in which we live now, but recently I learned that apocalypse has come to be used popularly as a synonym for catastrophe, but the Greek word apocalypsis, from which it is derived, means a revelation. I believe that in words there are hidden intimate truth. Thank you very much.